There was always this feeling, at least to me, that the John Gruden era with the Raiders was not going to end well. You got this guy that had been out of coaching for a decade. He comes back and you give him a 10-year, $100 million deal, like it's a damn college program or something. Just something about that screamed out that this was a money grab by him. This was an opportunity to get a second chance. And this was not going to go well. And frankly, like, it didn't go well. I think the only surprise, perhaps, is that the John Gruden experience ended with the Raiders as quickly as it did, with all of the controversy about the emails. Here we are talking about frickin' emails. We're talking about emails. But nonetheless, those emails came out, and John Gruden left in the middle of the 2021 season. And to the credit of the players in that organization, to the credit of interim head coach Rich Bisaccia, the team didn't quit. They didn't give up. They responded. They got themselves into a spot where in week 18, I forget now, it's a 17-game season, that on that Sunday night game, if they beat the Chargers, they make the playoffs. And they did. To go from all of that controversy and the head coaching change to be able to still rally and make the playoffs was really, really good for them. Of course, they lost in the wild card round to the Bengals, but all things considered, the season could have went a whole lot worse than it actually did. Not as surprising, perhaps, as that Mike Mayock, fantasy general manager, was shown the door. A good reminder to so many of us that just because we might occasionally get some thoughts right on some prospects or some of our scouting reports pan out does not automatically mean that we are equipped to be a general manager in the National Football League, because frankly, a lot of the people that are general managers are not cut out for the gig, and clearly Mike Mayock was. Now, how much of the horrendous draft choices and draft luck in recent years was solely to Mayock, how much of that was Gruden and his influence and his personnel say, that's up for debate and discussion. But nonetheless, it's a new era for the Las Vegas Raiders. Dave Ziegler was hired as general manager. He brought in Josh McDaniels to be the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So you're bringing some of that Patriot way to Las Vegas. Some of the Patriot way to the Raiders. Because, yes, going up the Belichick coaching tree is such a key formula for success, right? Anyways, I'll give Raiders credit here, and their new front office credit here, is even though this team made the playoffs last year, they know that this team needed a big amount of work. So they got to work in the offseason. While, yes, they lost guys like Zay Jones and Casey Hayward, Quentin Jefferson, Alec Ingold, Brandon Faison. You look at what they brought in return. They brought in Chandler Jones. Like, that's a big signing, putting him on the other side of Max Crosby. You've got a pretty potent 1-2 combination coming off the edge. Then you brought in Bilal Nichols, a young defensive tackle for the interior of that line that certainly needed some help. Brought in guys like Anthony Everett and Matt Collins. And then, of course, the big move for the Raiders is trading the first and second round pick in this past April's draft to go bring in Davante Adams for the Green Bay Packers. His team needed another weapon, and by God, they got it. That's a big get for the Raiders. Of course, they paid him big bucks once they got him, but you're going to give up that much to acquire a guy, you better go ahead and invest in him long term and hope it works. And one of the cool things for the Raiders about that deal was, yes, while they lost the first and second round pick, it's not like the recent history suggested they would do anything with those picks anyways, right? I mean, they just cut last year's first rounder, Alex Leatherwood. So why not take a first and second round pick that you know more likely than not you're going to screw the hell up on and use it for a proven elite commodity at wide receiver in Davante Adams? All the while, this team was able to contain all of the damage in terms of draft pick capital to the 2022 draft. So they'll have their bevy of picks for 2023. That's really, really good. So you've got a remade kind of Raiders team, new leadership, new head coach, lots of change here for a team that did make the playoffs last year. What do I like about this team? I'll start with Derek Carr. While Derek Carr is not a super stud, he's not elite. He is a franchise guy. He's on the lower end of the franchise scale to me. And you could say, well, he's probably the worst quarterback in the division. He might be. But when the competition in the division is Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert, that's not necessarily mean that he's bad. And let's not pretend like he's total crap here. And I love the fact that they beefed up that receiving core. It looks like they just reworked Aaron Waller's deal and gave him more money. So, Your stud tight end still in the fold. Hunter Renfrow had a great season last year, showing that fifth-round picks at wide receiver could be studs. Imagine that. And then, of course, the big trade for Davante Adams. So you've got three weapons in the passing game that I don't know that Derek Carr can ever say he's had that quality or that caliber of level of talent around him. So really good quarterback, really good weapons to work with on offense. What are some of the concerns for me with this Raiders team this year? Which makes me not as high on them considering they were a playoff team last year. Number one, the offensive line. The offensive line was bad last year, and I don't see where they got a whole heck of a lot better this go-round. The running game. Is Josh Jacobs going to play like the first-round pick he's supposed to be, or is he going to be kind of mid? I believe they didn't pick up the fifth-year option on him, and I can't blame them. Like, they need a big year in the running game. They need a big year out of him. And then you look, in terms of the running game on defense, they were really bad stopping the run last year, and I'm not sure they did a whole lot to get a whole lot better there against the run this year. In terms of the schedule for the Raiders, the opening of the season is kind of tough for them, that's for sure. Their first 5 games, they got to travel to take on the Chargers on the road, and then host Arizona, go to Tennessee, host Denver, go to Kansas City. Like, it is not out of the realm of possibility that the Raiders could start 2-3, 1-4, maybe even 0-5. And then, the schedule, I think, softens up a little bit in the middle part of the season, but the last 6 games, hosting the Chargers, and they got to go to the Rams, host New England, to Pittsburgh, San Francisco at home, Kansas City at home. Like, maybe there's a couple of winnable games there, but there's some tough ones there, what you would feel late in the year. And I'm just not convinced that they are any better than they were last year. I'm not sure that even them being a playoff team was really where they belonged last year. They got there, so I guess they deserved it at the end of the day, and I'm just a freaking idiot. But when I look at this Raiders team, I know they added Davante Adams, and that's great, and that should make a difference for them. But there were a lot of flaws and a lot of pieces, and consider me not convinced about Josh McDaniels. Now, maybe if you're a Raiders fan, on the one hand, you're really upset with me because I'm going to pick your team to finish last in the division and win like 8 games. Also could be that the division is tough. They could also win 9 games and be 4th and still make the playoffs. That is certainly a possibility here. But maybe on the other hand, if you're a Raiders fan, you say, you know what? I don't want you picking this team to finish high, Jeff. I want to stay away from that Jeff jinx as much as possible. So remember that every time you're a fan of one of these teams, and in this case the Raiders, and you get mad at me because I'm showing your team disrespect, do you really want to tempt fate? Do you really want me to be high on your team? Do you want to? Because by God, I can be, and we'll call this shit off right here, right now. Because if I started pumping up the Raiders as a Super Bowl threat, you could guarantee they'll be picking in the top 3. The Jeff jinx is real, damn it. So take my prediction of 8 wins and choke on it, because it could be a whole hell of a lot worse. I could be a little bit overly negative here, but like I said, this is a really tough division. Like, it's going to be a dogfight in the AFC West. It certainly is within the realm of possibility that all 4 teams in that division have 9+ wins. All of them have a winning record. They could potentially all be 10+ win teams. So when I look at this Raiders team, I think they are the worst of the 4 teams, but that's not by much, and that's not saying much, and 1 or 2 things go a different way. They absolutely could win this division, as crazy as that might sound.